Fanfiction is a creative tradition built entirely on using other people's characters, other people's worlds, and other people's intellectual property. And it has always been legally gray at best. So, the fact that this community is now launching purity campaigns against writers who borrow from AI is genuinely one of the more ironic things happening on the internet right now. Over the past week, a coordinated movement emerged across fanfiction platforms, most visibly on Archive of Our Own, one of the largest repositories of fan-created writing on the internet, with a single goal: find the AI writers and remove them. Here's what the headlines missed. This story isn't really about AI detection. It's about what happens when a community that has never had formal gatekeeping suddenly decides it needs some, and grabs the nearest tool available without asking whether that tool actually works. Let's actually look at this. The detection methods being circulated in these communities range from AI classifier tools, the same ones that have been repeatedly shown to have false positive rates above 30%, to informal checklists. Things like, the prose feels too smooth, or the author doesn't respond to comments the way a real person would. That second category, the vibes-based detection, is especially dangerous because it's essentially asking, does this writing feel human enough? And that is a question that has no objective answer and has historically been used to exclude writers who are neurodiverse, non-native speakers, or who just have an unusual style. The classifier tools aren't much better. Tools like GPT-0 and similar detectors were built to catch student essays, short, formulaic, written to a prompt. Fanfiction is long-form, stylistically varied, and often deliberately experimental. These tools were not designed for this context, and applying them here is a category error. And yet the accused are being named. Writers with years of community history are having their work flagged, their reputations questioned, and in some cases their accounts mass-reported, based on detection methods that professional researchers wouldn't trust. To understand why the reaction is this intense, you have to understand what fanfiction actually is to the people who write it. This is not a casual hobby for most participants. These communities have members who have been writing in the same fandom for a decade, who have genuine relationships with readers, who treat it as a serious creative practice. When AI enters that space, the fear isn't just about quality degradation, it's about labor. Specifically, the fear that the emotional and creative investment required to write good fan fiction is being undercut by something that can approximate the output without any of the effort or relationship. That fear is legitimate, but the response it's generating is not proportionate to the actual threat, and more importantly, it's not effective. If someone is determined to pass off AI writing as their own, they can prompt carefully, edit heavily, and evade every detection method currently being used. The tools catch the careless, not the committed. Here's where the broader pattern becomes visible. Fanfiction is just the first creative community where this conflict has become acute enough to produce an organized response. The same tension is building in every corner of creative work: illustration, music production, game writing, screenwriting. And in each of those spaces, the community is being forced to answer a question nobody has a clean answer to yet. What is the meaningful threshold between AI-assisted and AI-generated? Is editing an AI draft different from writing one? Is using AI to overcome writer's block different from using it to fill a word count? Archive of Our Own is a nonprofit run by volunteers. It has no algorithmic feed, no monetization, no incentive structure that rewards volume over quality. It was specifically designed to be a refuge from those pressures. And even there, AI is producing the same anxieties it produces everywhere else. That tells you something important. This is not primarily a platform design problem. Platforms that optimize for engagement and reward high output do make AI abuse worse. But the underlying conflict exists independent of the platform, because the conflict is about identity and trust, not just incentives. There's also an internal contradiction the community hasn't fully reckoned with. Fanfiction has historically been one of the most welcoming spaces for writers who struggle with confidence, with disability, with English as a second language. A detection regime that flags too smooth prose or unusual engagement patterns will disproportionately harm exactly those writers. What to watch next? The real test is whether platforms like AO3 formalize any of this, whether they implement detection at the infrastructure level or leave it as community self-policing. Right now, it's the latter, which means the most vocal members of the community are effectively setting policy. Also worth watching whether any of the major AI labs respond to this. Anthropic and OpenAI have both talked about watermarking and provenance tools for AI-generated content. If those tools mature, communities like this one would be among the first real-world stress tests for them. The deeper question this story is forcing into the open is one that every creative industry will eventually have to answer out loud. Is the value of creative work in the output or in the process of making it? Fanfiction communities have always implicitly answered both. AI is making them answer explicitly, and they don't all agree.